So, welcome back to episode 14 of the Burkitt Encounter. It's been a couple of weeks since I managed to get around the table to talk to you guys. I've been a bit busy with one thing and another, what they call the day job, paying the bills, all that other super exciting stuff that I'm pretty sure you don't really want to get into. I've been busy setting up a bit of a side arm to the photography company, which I might talk about shortly. But really, I've been working hard to earn money to enjoy the finer things in life, shall we say. So, and while I've been doing that this last couple of weeks, I've been kind of semi-paying attention to what's going on in the world of photography, and trying to see what other people out there are doing and what's inspirational currently. And I have to say that in the main, inspiration is thin on the ground, shall we say. And what I'm noticing, particularly across the socials, is that there's not a lot of photography going on, but a lot of photography help, tuition. Lots and lots and lots of people telling photographers, both professional and amateur, how to get their work out. And I'm seeing some like amazing figures banded about, some 5 and 6 figure sums banded out by these people who are claiming to be some kind of guru. So what I did over the last few weeks when I had a few minutes to spare was I signed up for a few of these things to see what the lowdown was. And you've probably seen the usual format. XYZ person says, follow these steps to download my ebook to discover how to get £10,000 worth of clients in 30 days or whatever it is. And then you look at the people doing it and you investigate them a little bit, and pretty quickly it becomes quite evident that I don't quite know where their experience is from or where they're claiming it's from, but B, there are a handful of accounts saying things like, this course is amazing, worked wonders for me, I don't know what I would have done without X, Y and Z. I did quite a lot of investigation around these things and got some stuff downloaded and sent to me, and mused over that for the last couple of weeks. And then of course, because they've got you hooked in the first, by giving your email address every day, once, twice, 3 times, you're inundated with updates and have you tried, what about, and it's all about trying to get you to buy more and get more from them. But it led me to think about what's happened to photography. And I guess this has been around, that kind of format's been around in some shape or form for a good while. But it made me start to look at the wider aspects of photography and what's really happening out there, and how quickly the demise of professional photography is kind of coming about. And I talked about this a little bit previously on... can't remember which episode it was, the one about artificial intelligence, maybe episode 3, 4 or 5, something like that. And what kind of rung true for me was I read a little write-up, I can't even remember what it was today, it might have been on, where was it, let me just tell you so I don't lie to you. I read a write-up today on Digital Camera World about Bruce Gilden explaining that it's going to be broken a year, and talking about things like, photography fees haven't gone up in 25 years and all that. But when you pair that up with what's happening in AI and the amount of professional working photographers who aren't working photographers, they're actually digital marketers who are going on Facebook, Instagram, X, all those places, selling courses, selling long courses for not very much money, trying to do it in bulk, kind of confirms to me that the industry is in much dire state than what I thought it was. And I'm not just talking about kind of like the Bruce Gilden end of stuff, or the high-end fashion stuff, or the National Geographic stuff, or any of that stuff. I'm talking about it across all levels. Part of what I've been doing as a sideline to my own photography practice is looking at getting a family photography studio back up and running. I used to have one years ago, left that behind when I got more into fashion and stuff, and when I started teaching. But I'd like to bring that back a little bit, and I'll tell you why. Because I was investigating just in the town where I live, with Rotherham, South Yorkshire, a little small town, 250,000-ish population, which has been decimated on purpose by governments over the last 30 years, who are all following the World Economic Forum model of destroy. And the town itself used to have a handful of average to rubbish family photographies. And if you look on Google Maps, and it's probably the same for all areas now, there are a handful scattered around the area. But what I kind of noticed was there was people giving it away, and people, the named companies, selling not very much for massive money, and there was nothing in between. And so I kind of felt like the quality's not there at the low end at all, and the quality's certainly not there at the high end, and there's nothing in between for people to be able to afford to go and get their dog photographed, or their daughter, or their kids, or have a loving couple's photo shoot, or even a family shoot. You've either got dirt cheap, dog shit photography, or you've got mediocre, high-end photography for £1,000 a shoot, and there was nothing in between. So I kind of had an idea to kind of bring my family photography side of things back, and to see if I can fill that gap a little bit. It might work, it might not. It's difficult to know in these days, the hard times. Robin's are predominantly a working class town, some middle class, some upper middle class. It's not a millionaire's playhouse or plaything. It's a pretty standard working class town. But I'm hopeful that kind of positioning of that company in there will help people kind of get some quality photography for decent money without having to lend it, loan it, break the bank, or spend a horrendous amounts of money getting mediocre to rubbish pictures. So it all kind of tied in for me. That I spoke about this again before on another podcast about photography's eating itself because we shot ourselves in the foot with our pricing and giving it away. Each to their own. I understand photographers are in dire straits. I understand it's difficult to make money. I do understand that, I really do. But I saw an advert on, I think it might have been Instagram this week, with a photographer giving away, I don't know, something like 30 quid for a pet shoot. And that includes, I think it was 15 digital images. So he's pricing his photographs has been worth £2 a picture, and his time's worth nothing. And I get it, people are skint, it's difficult for you to get work, I know that. But how are you ever going to come back from that? How are you ever going to come and earn good money for doing good pictures? And to be fair, the pictures looked alright. There were decent pet photos, they were interesting. Some quirks, they were nice, there was nothing bad about it. But I failed to see how giving your work away at £2 a chuck and not charging anything for your time helps anybody, particularly yourself, because those clients are never going to give you 200 quid for a shoot, are they? So I've thought about all that when I'm pricing my new family photo stuff. I don't get too deep into that because it's not really what this podcast's about, but it just made me realise that, you know, with the economy, with people's perceptions of photography being easy, with the onslaught of AI, which is being pushed out more and more and more and more. I mean, those god-awful adverts that you see with these professional photographers are, what did I do before Topaz? Yeah, what did I do before this software fixed all my pictures for me? Well, I thought photographers used to take good pictures, didn't they? Didn't used to rely on anything to fix them for them. They used to understand shutter, ISO, all that stuff. And if the picture was shit, they wouldn't use it, they're going to shoot it again. But now the premise is on either don't worry about your shit pictures because AI can fix them, or don't even bother taking a picture because AI can make them. And when you put that into the mix and you look at something like Bruce Gilden saying that at his end of the spectrum, photography fees haven't gone up in 25 years. When you look at some of the absolute dross being published in the high-end magazines of late, people might say, oh, don't say that one, shoot yourself in the foot. Listen, I've tried my best. I've worked hard to get some decent publications, but it became obvious to me 10 years ago that was never going to be accepted in the higher echelons of magazine world. Face doesn't fit, opinions don't fit, and quite honestly, I couldn't do some of the stuff that would be expected to do and toe the line of what would be expected. So I'm not gonna, by saying that I think I was optimistic that Vogue magazine might have turned the corner, but clearly looking at the latest stuff with Florence Pugh, it hasn't. And you know, it's not just about, I think there are better photographers out there shooting better stuff. There are, but it's the overall quality and wokeness and all that other bullshit stuff that gets in the way of real good photography, that stops me really being bothered about working in that. I used to really aspire to be a Vogue photographer or of somebody of that ilk, but as the longer I got into it, the more I worked in the celebrity end of stuff, the more I realised I really didn't want to work in that at all. So I'm not saying I wouldn't have liked at some point to have an Harper's Bazaar or a Vogue magazine cover to my name. I would, but I realised there are better things in photography out there than aspiring to be that. So that aside, the quality, the lack of payment, AI, people thinking photography is not worth anything. We're in a tricky spot, folks. We're kind of, it's up to us as photographers to fix this. And as I said on a previous podcast, the only way you can fix it is to stick your chest out and say, no, this is my worth, pay my worth. And until we all start doing that at both ends of the spectrum, at the amateur stroke, just coming into it, students charging a few quid instead of doing everything for nothing, right up to the Bruce Gilden kind of arena. People have got to pay us what we're worth. And, you know, right now they can go down the AI route and get it for nitto, for nothing. But look at the state of AI. And I'm pretty sure that's kind of like responsible for some of the actual shit photography that's around. If you look at the AI stuff that's being pumped out, and people are accepting that as photography, then the person still doing photography has got a real low bar to aim for. If magazines and publishers are going to be happy with the AI-based creative shit that's being spewed out, that costs next to nothing and can done in no time, then the photographer coming up has got such a low bar that they're going to be able to hit it and probably pass it all the time. But that means that their work is shit. So the higher echelons, people that can charge more or should be getting paid more, who have honed their craft, worked on their craft for years and always produce results, are going to be left behind. And if Bruce Gilden's saying that he's having to fund his own projects and he's going to be out of money soon, we need to get in there and help people like Bruce. People just stepping on the ladder, because it links right through. If Bruce can't get paid to do work and get it published, and the guy stepping on the ladder's doing it for £2 a picture, what's going to happen to photography with the constantly pumping of AI? And the biggest frustration for me is seeing professional photographers. I'm using that word quite loosely. I don't like the word professional. It doesn't really mean anything, does it, other than you get paid for doing it. But you know the guys I'm talking about that are suddenly jumping up on all these AI program adverts saying they don't know how they coped without it. Well, I know how you did it. You used to actually care about your craft. You used to actually take some time, make sure you were shooting well, make sure things were good, make sure you were in focus, make sure you were sharp, make sure there was no motion blur. You used to do all that stuff. But now, and if you didn't, you know, you'd cull it, you just wouldn't use it, you'd go back and reshoot it. But now, particularly Topaz Labs, and don't bin that photo. What the fuck is that all about? How are we going to train the next generation of photographers if we're going to get into a position where the software is that good? It isn't actually. When you use it, it's quite cartoony. But let's that aside, how are we going to teach our next lot of photographers, the ones who are going to come through and save the industry, how are we going to convince them to invest time to become good, to understand the technology, to understand the techniques, to bin stuff that's not sharp, that's got motion blur, that's way underexposed, that's coloured, all that stuff? How are we ever going to train them to be that good if all they do is go on Topaz and go click, 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 fix, use? At some point soon, if it hasn't already, the quality of photography is going to be so poor, the bar will be that low, people will probably stop doing it because it'll be less fuss and easier for trainee, wannabe, upcoming photographers to just use AI. And I don't want that to happen. I mean, photography, as you know, I believe photography's been around for thousands of years, not the 200 years. Funnily enough, I read, I think it was on Petapixel the other day, I read that the 200th anniversary of the discovery of photography was celebrated. And it's just like all those other definites in history that the article went on to say, well, we think it was 200 years ago, but he didn't fix that picture, so it might have been a year later, or it might be a year after that, or it might be. It's bullshit. It was just picked up again. It was like a refound at that point. It was a way before 1824, 5, 6. Trust me. Read my book. I'm not going to get into that. But it just made me realise that in 200 years, let's say, photography's gone from being a skill, a science, to a flimsy throwaway. Anybody can do it. And you know what companies and businesses are like? They're there to make money. And if they find a cheaper way of doing it, they'll do it. There are a lot of people out there who are visually illiterate. And it was interesting to hear David, I wasn't going to say David Bowie then. David Bowie probably wasn't, but David Bailey, in one of his interviews, said that quite often magazine editors and people who work in magazines are visually illiterate. And I think there's some truth in that, because when you look at some of the dross that makes it into the high-end magazines, you have to think, But, like I said, that just makes it easier to get the AI stuff in, and for the AI stuff to be more, more acceptable, even though it's dross. So, I've said it a million times in other podcasts and other short videos I've made. I'm worried that photography is dying. And I said in my book, in my paper, I said originally, Death of Mechanical Photograph in 2018. I said I'd give it 40 years. And I revised that recently back down to 5 years. And I'm thinking 18 months, maybe 2 years, photographers won't be able to get paid for their work. Certainly not paid at the value of what it's worth. And a combination of all those things I've just said, the guy's charging £2 a picture, the top end guy's not being able to get work without paying for it themselves and trying to sell it, middle ground being swallowed up by dross and AI. We've got to, as photographers, figure out, work harder, beat it into people if we have to, metaphorically, not physically, that photography is an art. It's one of the greatest arts ever discovered, invented, utilised. And we can't simply just sit here and let it be swept away because somebody says AI is the future. You've got to get in with it. Well, we don't have to get in with it. There's a lot of AI now being pumped into the actual camera, so the camera's doing a lot of the work for you. I tried it on my Canon R6. I did a bit of the artificial intelligence, did it photographing my dogs, and it kind of works to an extent if you want to focus quickly on something. Strangely enough though, when I was doing it, my dogs were running around the garden, it focused on their arseholes as much as it did the face, so how good it really is, I don't know. But again, I did it with and without, and the pictures without were better, because I was focusing more as a professional, using my skill, knowledge and prowess as a photographer to get the shots right. I wasn't relying on something to do it for me. But I know how photographers like a shortcut, so I've no doubt out there a lot of people will be using artificial intelligence, particularly for focusing and stuff like that. But I'm going to say, think about what you're doing. Think long and hard about what you're doing, other than doing yourself out of a job in not too many years. Think about your skill and craft. And I'm not saying we should go back to plate photography. I'm not saying we should bin everything that's technologically based, or even some aspects of not so much artificial intelligence but workflow speed up. I'm all for that. But the key skills you've got to keep, you've got to learn, you've got to pass on, because photography is a human thing. Drawing with light is something humans do, not the camera. The camera's just a function. The camera's just a paintbrush. The camera doesn't do anything other than what you tell it to do. If you start taking all the humanity out of telling the camera what to do, what is left? So, in my view is, photography is dying quickly, and we need to stop that death by reinvesting ourselves in doing photography, doing more of it, pushing it at people, shouting it to people, telling people, hey, this is the future, I did all this by my fair hand, not getting sucked in to the chaos or the ease of AI. Be honest when you're looking at AI. You know it's rubbish. It's rubbish. There are a few elements of it. Some of the lower end stuff you might do on Topaz. Bit of sharpening might be alright if it's only a bit. But as soon as you get into the realms of serious blur, serious motion, it's comical. The fix, how it fixes it. And I know they'll say it's only going to get better, but so what? Bin the picture, go and shoot it again. Go and shoot the bloody picture again, and don't get stuck in that fixing it mindset, because that just produces shit, utter drivel shit photography. That's my thoughts on that. That was a bit of a kick-off, wasn't it? A bit of a moan and groan to kick off. You guys know me by now, I like a good moan and groan. But coming back to all the gurus, all these photography gurus, who, from what I can see from my investigation, is they're all not actually photographers at all. They're marketers who do a bit of photography, or they're marketers who have been told by a photographer there's a market for this thing. And when you start looking at them properly, I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to embarrass anybody. I don't want to get into a slanging match with anybody. You do you, I'll do me. But when you look at all of them, bar none, all they're selling is a process to get to an end game, which, if you're switched on enough as a photographer and you're not, what's the phrase, you're not behind the trees, behind the fence, you're not green, you're not naive, you should be able to do all those things without paying somebody for the privilege of reading their step-by-step guide to becoming a photographer who can command £10,000 a week in sales or whatever it is. And it's like I said earlier, when you click on them and go through them, there's lots of accounts who are, you get the, oh, this is brilliant, I don't know what I did before it, I'm so glad I found so and so, which to me look and feel clearly like either like bots or like people have been given a few quid to say it. You get a few people saying, oh, it never worked for me, I downloaded it, didn't work. You get people saying, quite rightly, this is a lot of shit, you can do this yourself, why do you need somebody else to do it for you? But it doesn't stop there, probably because of the state of the photography business for the mid to high end photographers. I've now seen some what you might call prominent photographers on there selling some very dubious wares, and by dubious wares I mean, so let's put it this way, it probably took me shooting every day for 2.5, 3 years before I got to the point where I should have been charging good money, where I was competent, I could refine, I could go again, I could shoot, edit, I had a process, all my imagery looked like mine, I knew what I was doing. If a client come in, I could say, I can sort that for you, I knew exactly what I was doing. If somebody said I want a picture like that, I could recreate it. Took me 2.5, 3 years of hard work. Probably in that 2.5, 3 years, from 2006 to 2009, I probably shot the same as what someone else might have done in 20 years to get better. That's how much practice I made. And I'm a very quick learner. I'm an exceptionally quick learner and an exceptionally good critique of myself. So then, when I log into Facebook, I think it was, and see a well-known photographer claiming that you can master the art of photography in 30 days with a bunch of presets and things, it just made my teeth fucking itch. The reason it makes my teeth itch is because it's a lie, isn't it? It's a fabrication. No photographer who has been shooting a couple of weeks, couple of months, couple of years even, is going to master the art of photography in 30 days with a simple bunch of presets, which is just going to tart up the pictures you've taken probably badly in the first place. But when you look at the comments on things like that, they're all on there. Oh, this is amazing. What did I do before I found this? Oh, you know. And all the time I'm thinking, but what did you learn? Somebody else has worked hard to get a preset to do that on their photographs that are good to start with. So what you're going to do with your ropey, not quite right photographs with somebody else's presets, looking at a screen that's probably not calibrated, with no idea what your histogram does or what your histogram's telling you, but you're going to spend money on the presets instead of getting out there and practicing your ass off. I don't get it. I know everyone wants a shortcut to fame, I get that, but for me as a photographer, I want to bloody know what I'm doing. I don't want to walk into a studio and somebody set it up for me and all I do is click and get a great picture. Where's the owning that? Where is the pride in what you've done? Where is the I understand why that depth of field looks like that. I understand why that colour balance is like that. I understand why those lights were sat there. What's the point? And it's the same in the edit. Okay, I've done a shoot, it's like this. How do I get it to how I envisaged it? What skills do I need to know? Too many people now are just going whack. Somebody's done all the hard work, they just go whack on the preset or on the slider and it does this, and on their screen they think it looks great. They don't know why it looks great, they don't understand the colour, the tone, the clarity, the texture, the depth of field. They just go, oh, that suddenly looks a lot better than it did. Thank you. I'm so glad I bought those presets. And suddenly they're an amazing photographer when they're not. They're just a sap who's got sucked into believing that presets of any type are going to make them brilliant. And again, this is part of the reason why photography is eating itself and why photographers are killing themselves, because they're not learning, they don't understand anymore. They're just mediocre at best artists who use other people's hard work to ride on the back of, to create mediocre pictures which people think are great, because the industry as a whole is now accepting mediocre pictures as being acceptable. And we've just got to work hard and get out of that. We've got to shout from the rooftops, I think, because I don't want photography to die. I want my kids and my grandkids to still be taking photographs. They don't have to be professionals, but I want them to still be able to pick up a camera and make a memory that's a true memory and not a memory that's been invented by a machine from a few prompts, because that's not photography, is it? And we're probably going to have to suffer some more before we get anything back, because if the Bruce Gildens of this world are struggling to be paid properly for what they're doing, then the Lance Burkitts of this world and the Joe Bloggs who's just starting out this world have got a very slim chance. But I would sooner, and this is no word of a lie, I would sooner work minimum wage stocking shelves than I would sell my photographs for £2 each. I would sooner bin photography off and just use it as a bit of fun than I would try to make money out of it selling my pictures for £2 per picture. And I'm going to carry on that vein probably till my dying breath, because it means a lot for me, for photographers at both ends of the spectrum, to be paid their worth. And even if I end up standing alone, I'll stand. I've done it my whole life for what I believe in and what I believe is right, and sometimes done it alone, sometimes done it with others, but I won't ever stop being that person. And you aren't ever going to convince me that taking photographs, quality photographs with good lighting, with good edit, with good understanding, with good appreciation, and selling them for £2 each is a good idea in any universe, in any reality. It's just not, is it? And like I said before, I do get that people are desperate and they probably need to eat, but I would sooner be stocking shelves than selling my pictures like that. I would sooner give them away than give somebody the privilege of paying me £2 a picture. It's horrendous. So these big photography names out there who are probably struggling for work, probably like I've said before, because we've all shot ourselves in the foot, and now diversifying into helping others by selling presets or tutorial courses. And there's nothing in the main wrong with that. I mean, I sell tutorial courses. I'm a teacher. I teach privately. But what are you teaching and why? If you're teaching somebody that within 38 days they can master photography by taking shortcuts, you're not teaching them that at all. You're teaching them bullshit. If you're teaching anybody and saying you can be as good as me in 5 weeks if you follow my course, it's bullshit. It's not going to happen. People learn at different paces, in different styles. People have different end games they want to get to. I try to teach in a way that not makes you so you're not a clone of me. I don't want a million Lance Burkitt clones out there, because where's the fun in that for them or me? I show my techniques and my styles and say, come make of that what you will. Add your own bits on, take your own bits off. What's important is you understand what you're doing, why and how to get to the end game repeatably. And a lot of these people selling courses and tricks, and that also includes the people who are saying, download my XYZ and I'll show you how to get a 10-figure client list regular. If you wind them back and look at the original people saying this and follow their work, I'm yet to find anyone who's got evidence that they're actually doing that. I can find a lot of evidence of people saying they're doing it, and a lot of evidence of people actually, in some instances, sharing some real good ideas of how to get there, but no actual evidence of them ever actually having done it. And there's a lot of that out there, which tells a lot more than there used to be. I mean, even since social media came on, there's always been some people on there selling their wares like that. But now, I mean, I think I've seen six different people today, all claiming to be gurus of either making you become an awesome photographer in 5 minutes or getting you a 5-6 figure regular client list in a few weeks. I've seen half a dozen of them today, half a dozen different ones across social media. And it's bullshit. It's utter bullshit. It's not going to do that for you. The only way you're going to get that good is to work hard, be honest with yourself, critique yourself, ask for feedback, stick to your guns, charge what you're worth, and keep going, and keep going, and keep going. There ain't no preset in the world going to suddenly make you David Bailey, or Avedon, or Gilden, or Cartier-Bresson. That comes through hard work, graft, repetition, and honesty. And unless you're prepared to do all those things, save your money, don't buy the presets. Go and learn how to make your own presets, because you've found a way of making your pictures really sing through an edit process. That's the future. I don't like slagging colleagues off, and I'm not really slagging them off. I'm just pointing out that photographers of all standards need to understand that then nobody's coming to save you, as they say. You can buy all the presets, all the courses, all that you want, but until you get off your arse and go and take the pictures and figure out why it's good, bad and ugly, you're going to spend your life buying presets and never get anywhere, never be any good. And you might be able to compete with the AIs of this world and the bullshit magazine covers which you see now, but take a step back and have a look outside of that. Some of the work you see that's not in high-end publications, some of the stuff that's self-published is miles, and I mean miles better, more interesting, more creative, better done. Awesome photography out there from people you've probably never heard of, in publications you've never heard of, that is absolutely fucking awesome. They're the people we should be backing. They're the people we should be saying, hang on a minute, why aren't these in the mainstream? Why isn't XYZ in a high street store? Because that's where the good work is. And it's probably been driven underground a little bit by the fact that major publications have their favourites and don't pay well, and you have to toe the line. You have to be as woke as them. You have to be as just shitty. You just have to bend over backwards and not be yourself. Pretend to be somebody else for a day to get the gig. And many photographers aren't prepared to do that, so they don't get in. They don't get their foot in the door. Or they're speaking an accent that doesn't become them. You know what I mean? There's a lot of snobbery in iron photography, and I've come up against that a lot in my career. And I ain't changing how I am just to get in your magazine. I'm not that fucking interested. So all that kind of, I've been looking out, shall we say, looking out into the world to see what's happening. And I came across Royal Photographic Society, who I've not thought about for a while. And I remember then look at all the others, Royal Photographic and BIPP and all those other wondrous things, which are really actually just like camera clubs but bigger. And they kind of sell it to you as if you join one of them, suddenly you're going to become elevated. join the RPS, get a BIPP accreditation, whatever it is, suddenly they sell it to you like it's going to raise you up that big that you won't have to do anything else. You're in the society. You exist now. And again, that's bullshit. I'm not saying there aren't people out there in the RPS and all that do good work. There are some guys and girls out there that do that. But in the main, it's just dross. And quite often, the people telling you that you're good, bad or ugly, their work's dross as well. And it's just another con to get money out of photographers, to make them feel like they're part of something that they don't need to be part of. Because again, if you look out there, go on Instagram, go on blogs, go on podcasts, you will find better photographers than any of the guys and girls who are frequenting those places. Because they've worked out that it's bullshit and you don't need to be part of a club to be good. What you need is to be honest with yourself, treat yourself with respect, price yourself so you're paid what you're worth, and put your work out where you can in a format you want to keep some pride and some ownership of what you're doing. And you don't have to look hard to find these people. I'm not going to give you any names because it's dead easy to find good photography if you're looking. And I would say don't look in the obvious places. Don't look. Certainly don't look anywhere in the mainstream. Look around, beside, above and beyond that, and you'll find some awesome photography who aren't part of societies, who don't download courses and plugins and presets, who work hard, who think about what they're doing, who digest what they're doing, who can pick up a camera and go from A to Z, do everything in between and produce awesome pictures. There are lots out there like that. Trust me, there are lots of photographers out there who you've never heard of, who when you find them, you think, oh, that's amazing. And it is. I'm not a big fan of U2 at all. In fact, I'll tell the truth. I used to be a fan of U2 in the early days, until Bono became so firmly stuck up Tony Blair's fucking arse, it was clear where his allegiances lie. And ever since then, and seeing what Bono was into, I can't get into it anymore. But he did say one thing in a lyric on one of their early songs, and that is, you glorify the past when the future dries up. And I think that's where photography is right now. I'm guilty of glorifying the past because I fear the future is drying up, and for the reasons I've just said previously. Much of the inspiration I still take today is from people who are dead. And when you consider that, I mean, I align it to music as well. My stepson's a musician and he's into all sorts of music. But the vast majority of stuff he listens to, which is inspired by, is people who are dead. Hendrix, Beatles. A lot of those bands from the 60s, 70s, still influencing musicians today, but not so much anything from the last 20 years. And photography is very like that. My main influences are still Bailey, Avedon, William Klein. If you ask me to name my top 10 favourite photographers of the last decade, I probably couldn't name one. If you said to me name your least favourite photographers from the last decade, ranking. But then, outside of that, who else? Because I'm very hard to inspire. I don't get inspired that much. I don't follow trends. I don't jump on bandwagons. I'm not interested in funky, quirky kit and all that other stuff that makes you go wow. I'm just interested in good photography. And the most of the good photographers I know are unknown, generally speaking. So the kind of like mainstream famous, if you like, photographers of the last 30 years are they're quite few and far between for me. And when I talk to other photographers, it's pretty much the same. You know, they kind of hark back to the golden era. And I'm not saying that some of the more modern photographers don't do good work. There is some good modern photographers out there who do get published and do get their work in the mainstream mags. But for me, they're nothing like the older school guys. And like I say, I equate it to music. Music's the same. You either are inspired by stuff or you're not. And I'm certainly not inspired by anything that I've come across really in the last 10 years. Occasionally I see a good picture and I think, well, that's nice, that's interesting. But most of the work I see now is just people standing on the shoulders of giants. And I probably actually have to put myself in that category to some degree. Looking at photography, find some little nuggets on Instagram, find some nuggets on online, on websites, but most of what you see now is clearly below par, mediocre, AI assisted drivel. Either that or what I call photocopying, which is things like product photography, where you plug and play, and e-commerce, all that stuff, which has got its place. I know it has, I know it's got its place and blah blah blah, but from a photography standpoint it's boring, rubbish. And finding photography that's not boring and rubbish, I've discovered in the last couple of weeks looking really hard to find stuff. Even stuff outside of my taste is difficult. And the best stuff I've seen, particularly on Instagram, is the guys with a few hundred followers at the back end, in the middle of nowhere in Japan or places like Hungary, and just off track, off the piece people who are doing real interesting good work, but nobody knows about them because they don't have access to those mainstream facilities to get your name out there. So I mean, I've just got this advert up in front of me. Because I was flicking through while we're talking, and it's just, we can help you with your blurry photos. And I just think, fucking, how did photography get here? How did photography get here? When probably the most paid for advert on Facebook is, we can help with your blurry photos, not go out and practice and stop taking blurry fucking photos. We've got to win this war. We have got to win this war. So like I said, how do we win the war? How the war was won? It's really just a case of sticking to your guns. And if you're a photographer or you know somebody who's into photography, encourage them to stay away from anything which does anything for them. Go and find the darkest place you can find and make a picture there. Give somebody, buy somebody a Photoshop, or get your Photoshop CS3 disk out, stick it in, and get somebody to work out what everything does. Concentrate on colour balance, exposure, noise, sharpness. If your picture's blurred, don't use it. Or maybe it's blurred because it was supposed to be, bit of motion blur. Maybe it makes it look creative. Use it, talk about it on your blog. Don't stick it in Topaz and get rid of the blur, because it'll look like something Walt Disney has made. And if I were you, I would be as far away from Walt Disney as I could be, for more than one reason. We, as photographers, we should be purists. We should want the best out of our camera. We should want the best out of our edit. We should want the best of everything. We shouldn't want things to be done for us. Although, like I do say quite often, photographers are quite lazy and open to wanting help. And there's nothing wrong with getting help. There's nothing wrong with somebody showing you how to make an edit or showing you a process which works. What's important for me, not just as a teacher but as a photographer, is that you bloody understand why. So as a photographer, you should be understanding why a lens does what it does, what depth of field is, how depth of field can affect how a narrative is told in a story. Why then hit a bunch of buttons on Photoshop or whatever it is you're using to change that story, but not knowing how or why it's done it. Just going, oh, that looks great. Surely you want to know why, what happened, what did it actually do? And I'm not convinced from what I've seen and read, anybody's doing that when they buy presets. They're just hoping that their preset's going to make their work look as awesome as Fred Blogs who've sold on the preset. And I'm afraid it ain't. In the main, it's not. It's going to look rubbish because it's not set for your photo that you took in the first instance. It's not the same as Joe Bloggs' photo, is it? So to begin to win the war, tell your photography students, please. If you're a photography teacher and you're teaching AI, bin it. Step away from the AI. Stop killing your photography students' future before it's even started. If you're a photographer and you're pushing AI, you're a part of the problem, not the solution. And you can call me the most antiquated, out of date wanker. I don't care what you call me. I care about saving photography. Photography has been my life for 20 years. I'm not prepared to walk away from it and watch it be watered down to some algorithm just because creative people are lazy, or just because the industry thinks it's cheaper or better, or just because, as I've discussed before, I think there are bigger nefarious things at play here. I'm not going to get into that today. But I want my kids, their kids, photography students of photography, to be doing photography in 100 years' time. In whatever, guys that is, from a technological standpoint, so long as they're still in charge of those 4 things that come together to make a picture: your ISO, your shutter, your aperture, and your colour balance. If you're still in charge of those things and your composition, I don't care what it is, as long as it's not a chip in your head, as long as it's something you have to hold and manipulate, and that isn't intervened by an algorithm making selections for you. That's why I want photography to thrive. And more than that, I want people out there who should be buying photography and hiring photographers to understand their bloody worth and stop paying dog shit fees. 20 years time, it won't matter to me. I'll be that knackered that I'll not be able to get them to take pictures anyway. But for the next generation, the generation after that, pay them. A car mechanic gets paid good money for doing what they do. £45,000 a year for a car mechanic that does an MOT, because a computer can't do all that work yet, and because a robot can't do all that work yet. They're going to have to protect themselves just the way photographers are. But just because photography does have an AI element to it, or can have an, doesn't mean it should, and doesn't mean that people should be paying less for photography because they think, it's anybody can do it now, it's AI. My photography isn't AI. Part of the thing that I'm using to sell for my new family photography company is the fact that it's all done by humans. And what I mean by that is all the photography is done by humans, myself and a few other people who are photographers. Nothing is automated, nothing is AI. The website is built and designed by me, it's managed by me. The telephones, the emails are all answered by either me or other real people. There's no AI involved. I had some options when I was designing and building the website to have some AI stuff in there to help me. I didn't do it because I want to understand exactly why the website works how it does and exactly why it stopped working. I'm not interested in having AI be any part of my business or my creativity. Why? A, because I'm a human. B, because I like to learn. And C, because I don't need it. It's only come to light recently for the nefarious reasons, which I'm not going to get into here. But humans are notoriously lazy, or notorious for wanting the next big thing. And that's where we are with AI. So it's pumped out onto everything while it's popular. And it's one of those things, and if you're not into it, you're a bit of a misery. Why aren't you into it? And I've told you why I'm not into it. But just because it's there doesn't mean you have to use it. So I'm opting to not use it. And it's not making the slightest bit of difference to my life from not using it. The phone still rings. The email messages still come through. I can still amend, fix, change, edit my website to however I want. All of my websites. Because I've learned over the last 20 years how to build websites. Alongside being a freelance photographer, I've learned how to do marketing. I've learned those things myself because I'm interested. And I'm not interested in having anything automate anything for me. So if you ever email me or ring me up, it will be me that answers, not a machine. I don't even have automated responses. If I miss your call, I'll ring you back. If I miss your email, I'll email you as quick as I can. You'll never get anything from me that is not me or a member of one of my team. Because humans need to interact with humans and continue to interact with humans. And when, that couple ring up to see if I'll photograph their wedding, or do them a couple shoot, or photograph them and their new baby, I want them to know they're talking to a human who cares about that, and not an automated bot that just responds quickly through convenience. It's never going to happen on my watch. And I hope that people who have influence over younger photographers, or even older but just coming into photographers, will start to realise the worth of knowledge, their own knowledge, and passing that on, and not just using AI and all the other gimmickry because it's new and because we've got to use it. Who says we've got to use it? Just because Elon Musk says AI is great, don't mean it is. I mean, Elon's another one that's not who you think he is. Just because things are there and because the majority of people are saying, oh, it's here to stay, we've got to use it, doesn't mean you have to. Where does it say in the universal law of choice you've got to use it? It doesn't. And that's going to be my stance probably until I'm toes up, because, well, because, you know, my experience in life tells me when anything comes out of left field and it's suddenly forced upon you, it's not for a good reason. There's some of that behind it. But more importantly for me in this case, it's the lowering the bar of photography standards, which is affecting everything in photography business. And if we don't stop that, then the photography business will no longer exist and it'll just be digital artists. And even the digital artists won't exist because it'll just be some nerd behind a computer being told, I don't know, create me an image of a dog on a beach with a beach ball and a loving family happily laughing. Thank you. You're now a photographer. If that's the future you want, you carry on, but it's not the future I want. It's not a future I want to be part of. As a parent, as a teacher, or as a photographer, I'm not going to play that game. And I will continue to fight AI in all of its forms, everywhere I see it, until I win. So it's been quite a negative podcast today. I'm sorry for that. I mean, I've got a lot of positive stuff going on. I have got the new family photography business, which has come online this week, which is starting to get interest, which is good. I'm hopeful that we can bridge that gap between mediocre crap and expensive crap, and be somewhere in the middle so people can have good quality, affordable photography without having to get bank loans, without having to pay on HP, and they can just, you know, enjoy booking the shoot because they know they're going to get value for money, and they won't have to sell a kidney or an arm to pay for it. And I really enjoyed actually looking back over my family photography that I've done over the last 20 years, and I actually did a lot more of it than I thought I'd done. So then when I started looking back for images to reuse in some of the adverts and whatnot, I thought, my God, I'd never realised how many families, babies, couples and things I've photographed over the last couple of decades. And I've got probably 12 or 14 terabytes of photos backed up over the last 20 years, plus a bunch of CDs and DVDs, which don't even get me started on. Some of them have stopped working. And just the work, just the immense amount of work. So it was nice looking back on some of those, and some of the, I mean, a lot of them you even forget you've done them. And then you see them and you go, oh my God, it's like you're back there. But that's a good thing about photography, isn't it? When you look back, I mean, I always say photography is the purest art form, but music does that to you. You hear a tune, suddenly you're back where you were, or you might see a film, or you smell. But when you see a photograph that you've not seen for ages and you forgot that moment happened, and you see it, you're like, oh my God, yeah, I forgot about that family. And it's nice to look back and see that although I wouldn't class myself per se as a family photographer, I have photographed a lot of families over the years, and the vast majority were highly enjoyable. And that, you know, that human connection, that buzz you get out of photographing people and seeing their reaction when they see the picture, it's probably the best buzz for me. I think that's probably why I like photographing people over everything, because the connection, that human element, isn't it? You show me an AI algorithm that can make Granny and Grandad, Jim and Joan, smile when they see that picture of them with their baby, with good lighting, good editing, on a A3 print and a nice frame. Show me some AI that can do that. It can't. It never will. So I really enjoyed that, looking back. I enjoyed building a website. I had a bit of a, oh man, it was one of them, you know, where you know what to do, but it's been a while since you did it. Spent a few hours figuring some stuff out, but it's good. I mean, I enjoy that. It's kind of therapeutic at the same time. I've got an idea for a new venture. I'm involved. I want to get it to be how it wants to be. I'm a bit of a control freak, if I'm honest. Plus, I'm orthodox tight ass, so I don't like paying other people to do things for me if I can help it. But I figured it out, and it works, and it's functional, and it's nice, and it's welcoming, and like I said, it's only been active a couple of days, and it's already getting some inquiries, so I'm pleased about that. I'm actually doing some portfolio work with a model next week, which I'm excited about because I haven't done that for a little while. So I might do a behind the scenes kind of shoot, might set up some film cams and shoot it, and then add it into the next podcast to talk about how that went. So there's some positives on the horizon outside of the fear of photography coming to an end very soon. But photography is a kind of, it's a strange medium in that you can pick up a camera and make pictures of anything. You don't always have to have a plan. You don't always have to have good weather. You don't always have to have a sitter. I fear for, like, for example, your landscape portrait artists, or some of them guys are phenomenal. I mean, they are phenomenal. But I think you've got to choose your scene, haven't you? You've got to choose your field or your coast or whatever it is painting, and you've got to get there, and you've got to stand there either in the pissing rain, snow, sleet, boiling sun, whatever it is. That's some craft in it, that being able to do that. The luxury of photography is you can avoid that because you can photograph anything quickly. David Bailey says it actually, that he doesn't even like photography, it's just quick, and it kind of, there is a bit of that, isn't there? I've also heard people say that we're all frustrated painters or frustrated artists of some kind, so we use photography because we can't paint. Now, I did art at school. I did GCSE art, and I was pretty good at it actually. But I never wanted to do it as a career, but I could draw pretty well, so maybe that's why I kind of always understood composition and stuff in photography. But I couldn't be an artist. Artists are just another. There's another thing in here, isn't there? There's some like antenna that, a bit like songwriters. I used to write songs when I was in a band, and I wrote some good songs, if I do say so myself. And John Lennon has said things like, it's not, I don't write it, it's just fed to me. And I think there's something in that. I do think there's something feeding, part of the holographic universe we live in. My niece, Lauren, who's also a good photographer, but she's a phenomenal artist. And there's just something for her that just, I don't know where it comes from, but she can just do it. My stepdaughter, Beth, she's a phenomenal illustrator. And again, when you watch her working and pulling things together and adding shadows in and highlights and character, you just think, I'm here with a camera. It does feel a bit. I guess they'll look the other way back at us and as photographers and say, it's great how you do that. I mean, a lot of it, isn't it? Time, place, seeing it. My wife will attest to my photographer's widow book. She'll attest to the fact that I never switch off. I always see things. And maybe that's the photographer thing. I don't know. But photography, you can just pick your camera up and go for a walk. You can be sat in the house. An example, I'll show you on screen now. I'll add this into the edit because I don't have it out. But I took a picture of myself yesterday in our kitchen. I just was in there with the dogs, and the sun was beating through the front window, and I just noticed some nice shadows on the floor. So at first I was taking pictures of shadows, not me. But then I thought, I wonder how it looked if I stood there. So what I did is I went and stood there, and took a picture of me in the reflection. So it actually looks like me stood in a window, but in actual fact, it's a photograph of my shadow cast by the window on the floor. And it's kind of, we're not talking about, it's not going to win any prizes. We're not talking about a picture that's going to, be splashed all over any newspaper or magazine or festival something. But it's actually, I think, quite nice because it just happened to be there. And the painter might have seen that, had to do a quick sketch and fill it all in from memory. But as a photographer, because it's instant, I just stood, snapped the picture, This is on my phone, by the way, not on a camera. I always love contrast, as you know. Snap the picture into Snapseed, square crop. Just added about 40% of shadow in there. Made it a monotone black and white straight one. No, not added any contrast or anything. Bang, done. And if you look closely, you can see the kind of like blinds. You can see where the blinds are on the window. But again, it looks like I'm stood in a window. I'm not. It's just a shadow on the floor. So photographers are lucky in that we can do that. We can see and go and do. So you don't have to stand on the hillside in the pissing rain unless you want to. Some landscape photographers are very good at that. Me, I'm more of a fair weather photographer, I think. Although a few years ago I did stand out in the freezing cold doing some sky, star, planet stuff. But you can just sit in the house like that and make good pictures. You haven't got to have a thing to go and do. You don't have to go out. Light and shadow, isn't it? That's what drawing with light is. Light and shadow. So we're very fortunate as photographers that we can instantly capture things and not have to think, oh my God, I've got to do that portrait, that commission I've had. That might take you 2, 3, 4 days, weeks, months. I don't know. We're very fortunate that it's quite instant. And I think that's half of the buzz, isn't it, in photography. See it, snap it, got it. So we need to push. We just need to make people realise that photography needs to be here to stay. When it's gone, if it goes, we won't lose this battle. I won't lose the battle. But let's just say it did. What are people going to do for memories? Initially in my paper I wrote that they would be so locked into the virtual reality thing they would just pause and rewind. That's where they would get their memories from. But I fear it's even worse than that, because I don't think the virtual reality thing, certainly when I wrote the paper, it wasn't AI invested. And now AI is going to make things so they were not real in the first place. So where do you get your memories from then? And photography is about memory, isn't it? Some people say it's about death. Some of the philosophers say it's all about death. Photography is about death. For me, not always. It's about memories, certainly, because everything in a photograph has happened in the past. So whether it was 2 minutes ago or 2 years ago or 200 years ago or 2,000 years ago, it's a memory of something or someone or some place or some event. And I think if we lose that link to memory through AI intervention, then what have you got? I don't want to look at something that somebody made that didn't happen. I want to see what happened. I want to know that happened. Spoke about this in a previous blog, didn't we? Previous podcast, about the truth in photography. So we just need to be very, very careful. And like I've said previously, I've repeated myself a lot today. I know if you're a photography teacher or a photographer and you're passing on knowledge, pass on the right knowledge. Leave AI of it. Beat the hell out of AI. Convince all of your students or all of your people that you're teaching photography to, or people that get into photography, to not worry about AI. Run away from it as fast as you can. Concentrate on learning the camera, the techniques, composition, how lenses work, how editing works, what processes are. Make good photographers that understand everything they're doing without the intervention of an algorithm. Let's save photography. Between us, let's stick our chests out. Let's be brave. Let's save photography. Let's save the way we're paid in photography. Let's make our worth visible. Let's make all those mag editors, those high-end clients, understand that we're worth good money and we're not some algorithm that's easy to do. Let's stick together on that, and let's win this war, because it is a war, and currently photographers are losing that war. So let's band together and make sure we win it. All right. Thanks for listening. Catch you on the next one. Have a great evening, weekend, day, month, year. Cheers.